Hey smart people, Toby Salami here. This is one site and this one is another site. You know it's a different site because it says so in the domain name right here. As you can see, this is a different domain name. Now on site A, I have a form here that once I submit it, it publishes a post on site B. Let's test it out. Let's call this publish a post on site B. And then inside of the content here, I'm just going to type, is this really going to work? And once I'm done, I'm going to click on send. Once I click on send, it says that the form has been submitted successfully. And that's okay. But was it really successful? If we come to site B now and refresh this, we see publish a post on site B. And if we click on quick edit here, we see that this was actually published. Yep, that really happened. As you can see here inside of the plugins on site B, you have no activated plugins here, and the theme you have here is the basic theme that comes with WordPress, the 2025 theme and nothing else. No plugins, no themes on site B, just a clean WordPress install. But on site A, I'm going to show you a secret to getting this to work. And by doing this, I'm going to expose you to the world of the WordPress REST API. Nothing I say here will be too complicated to understand. So all you have to do is stay with me till the end and you're going to grasp it in full. My name is Toby Salami. You need to hit that like button so that more people get to see this. And if you're new here, you need to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I publish useful videos like this every single week. That's enough talk. Let's get it done, shall we? Here are the plugins you need to get this done. You need to install BitFlows, and of course you can get that by clicking on add a new plugin and then getting that from the WordPress repository. You can of course install the pro version. You can get that using the link in the description below. Thanks to BitFlows for bringing this tutorial to you. When the team first reached out to me for a partnership on this, I sincerely felt that I was going to make a video about the product anyways. And I have wanted a product like this for a long time. And why? Because what you can do with the product is phenomenal. I have used an automation platform called N8N, and make no mistake, it's a good one. However, N8N is outside the WordPress ecosystem, and I wanted something that felt native to the tools I was already familiar with, had a deep integration with WordPress, and did not limit me to WordPress. And this is how BitFlows feels to me. I left them reviews saying just that, and it seems they completely agree, because why else will that be on their website? Anyways, this automation plugin is going to do some heavy lifting for me today, so let's put it to work, smart people. Keep in mind that every other plugin here really doesn't matter. Your page builder doesn't matter. Whether you're using Elementor or Bricks Builder or Gutenberg, it doesn't matter. What you really need is a form inside of your page builder or a dedicated form plugin from which you're going to send data to BitFlows, and then BitFlows takes that data and does magic with it. But first, let me show you how all of this is going to work. Of course, you can come to BitFlows by clicking on the BitFlows menu item here, and then inside of here, you're met with a nice, beautiful looking dashboard where you're going to see your executed flows and all of that basic data, right? But what we really need to do is to come inside of flows and build a new flow. Now, a flow is just something that's going to have both a trigger and an action, something that starts a chain of events. Of course, as you're used to most automation plugins, right? So let's create a simple flow. We're going to start the flow by just giving the flow a title. Whatever we call it here is our choice. Just going to call it send data to site B. Something like that is fine. Now I can choose a blank template and just go on. Of course, there are going to be many examples of these templates, I assume, but these are for use cases that are different from what I'm about to show you. Okay, so once you're done with that, just click on create and you should be inside of here. Now, if you're used to something like N8N, this should feel very familiar right at home. Because first you have a trigger, whatever you select here is going to start a chain of events. So what's going to be our trigger in this case? Of course, it can be any of the hundreds of apps you have here. It's entirely your choice what should start this chain of events. But in our case, we're going to use a simple webhook. And that's because most form plugins have the ability to send a request to a webhook URL. If you're not sure what a webhook is, just stick around and you'll see how simple it is. Now, let's do that. Let's just click on select an app and just pick webhook from the list here. We can search and select webhook. Now, once you select the app, you also want to select the integration that comes with that app. Some apps could have multiple integrations, but of course with webhook, you only have the ability to catch an incoming webhook request. Don't worry, I'm going to show you just how to set this up. Once you select incoming webhook, you would now have the ability to create a new webhook. So I can just come here and select from the list of webhooks or create a new one. I can click on add webhook. I'm going to give this webhook a name, whatever we call it here. It doesn't really matter to us, but you should keep in mind whatever you call your webhook because you may need to use it again in the future. Okay. So in our case here, I'm just going to say catch Elementor submission. Now after that, I'm just going to click on save. And once that is done, what it did in the background was to create a webhook callback URL. And you can see it right here. You can just simply copy that webhook URL right there. Now, when you send data to this webhook, what it really does here is just catch all of that data. And by catch, I mean C-A-T-C-H and not C-A-C-H-E, right? To catch it, as in catch a ball. So the form throws a ball, the webhook catches it, right? But for it to catch it, you need it to listen to the response from the form. So you need to click on this listen to response or listen response, and that is going to listen to whatever is sent to that webhook URL. Let's set it up by coming inside of our page editor here. You can do the same thing if you're using any other builder or any other form builder. It's entirely your choice. In our case, since we're using Elementor, we're just going to drag in a simple Elementor form right here. Now, of course, you have the name or whatever is inside of the form. In my case, I'm just going to call this title because, as you recall, as I showed you at the beginning of this video, what we're doing is to submit a title and content to the other site and actually get it published. So we're going to call that one title. So title for that, the placeholder should be title 2, and that should be okay. The next one we want to do is add maybe a text area of content. And inside of here for placeholder, we can just say write your text here. That should be good. Now let's go to the important part. The important part is to come down here to actions after submit. Of course, I have the webhook action already selected here. But if you just put in a simple Elementor form on the page, you would have something else selected. And you would need to come inside of here and just select the webhook action. Inside of webhook here, you're just simply going to paste in that URL. That URL you copied from here, you're just going to come back and paste that inside of here. Once you're done with that, you're pretty much done with setting up the form. If you click on publish now and come to the front end and then refresh this page, what you have here is a simple form with the ability only to send data to the webhook URL. So let's do that. We're just going to call it a sample title for the title. And inside of the text, we're going to say sample content. And then we're going to click on send. It says your submission was successful. We're going to come back here and we see that response was captured. And this is excellent. You can also see the captured response here. We see there is the title, sample title. We see the content, sample content. We see some other data also came along with that submission, such as the form ID and form name. I mean, you can make use of this for whatever you want to make use of it for. But in my case, we're done with this for now. We can click on close and we have that ready to go. So we can go ahead to our next step. And our next step is to be able to publish the content to site B. We can do that very simply by clicking on the plus icon right here and then selecting an action. The action would of course be, we're going to type in here, publish to site. Oops, there is no app like that. Of course, there is no app like that. What were you expecting? We have to do something for ourselves here. And to understand, we need to come inside of site B and see what we have set up. You really need no additional setup to a basic WordPress install to get this to work. And why is that? Because every single WordPress site that you spin up right now comes with REST API enabled by default. And that is a good news, because of the fact that with the REST API, we can allow 2 or more sites to communicate with each other seamlessly. Let's see how that works. If we come back inside of BitFlows here, we can simply select the first app we see on the list here called API request. Let's just click on that. And we see make a request is the action that follows. We can click on that too, and we'll be able to make a request to site B. This is getting very interesting. And if this is your introduction to APIs in WordPress, you're going to be amazed by what I'm about to show you. Now inside of connection here, you can choose a connection, a previous API request that you have authenticated. Of course, we have none on this particular installation, so let's add a new connection. We can simply click on add connection here and select the connection type. Now there are different connection types for APIs, and in this particular situation with WordPress, you can use the basic authentication to authenticate your connection to site B. And put simply, what that means is that you're going to be using your username and a generated password on site B. So let's do that. We can click on basic authentication and give this connection a name. In my case, I'm just going to call this connection to site B. Of course, give this a name that makes sense in your own case. Now, inside of username, I'm going to type in a username of an admin on the destination site. The destination site here is site B. This is the site on which I intend to publish posts. So let's do that. You can come to users, and I'm currently logged in as an admin right now. And my admin account is with the username TOBI, my name, Toby. So I'm just going to copy that username right there. And I'm going to come back inside of BitFlows and paste that username right there. Now inside of password, I can type in a password here. But what password will that be? WordPress provides you with a simple answer to that question. If you come inside of site B, back again to site B, you're going to scroll down inside of the user profile to where you have application passwords, and you can give your application password a name. Remember, we have no plugins installed, no special themes installed here. All we have is vanilla WordPress as it is. Let's just type in an application password name of our choice, and then the password will be generated for us. We can just call this connection to site A, and then we can click on add new application password. Once we do that, you see your new password to connection to site A is, and then that's the password right there. We can copy that, and we can come inside of the site A, back to BitFlows, and just paste that password inside of there. Once we have that pasted, we can click on connect. It's going to think for a bit, and now it's connected. Now you see the connection to site B is added and ready to go. This is very, very good. We're going somewhere with this. Now, if you come inside of the request URL here, what do you use as your request URL? To tell you about that, I'm going to introduce you to the REST API handbook of WordPress. If all of this is getting complicated, we're talking pretty advanced stuff here, but I'm going to keep things as simple as possible. Now, there is a ton of documentation inside of here, and you can read all of it if you care to. But in this particular situation, I'm just going to show you what's important. Let's come to the key concepts, and you can see some of the key concepts of the REST API. You can see that there are routes and endpoints, and you can see this is how it's formulated. You have HTTP or HTTPS, and then you have the domain name of your site, and then it's followed by what you call WP JSON. We know for sure that the way to formulate the URL is just to use our website and then follow it with WP JSON, just like this. But since we particularly need the posts on the destination sites, the site B right here, we also see here that there is a route for that, which is WP JSON, followed by WP, followed by version 2, which is the version of the REST API, and then followed by posts, which will get theoretically and actually the WordPress posts. Okay, so we have a very, very simple formulation of the URL that's going to lead us right to the WordPress post on the site B, which is our destination site. Let's do that. We'll come inside of BitFlows Pro. We're just going to first of all, of course, copy the URL from site B. That's a URL right there. We're going to copy that, put that inside of the request URL here. But of course, as you know, we're not done with formulating our URL. So let's come back here and copy the rest of it. This is what is left here. We're just going to copy all of that, come back inside of BitFlows Pro and paste that inside of there. So this leads us right to our post on site B. and that's nice. But what method are we going to use to send data to the destination site? It's a post request, not a get request, because I mean, if you think about it, this is a clever name. Get is to get stuff, post is to post stuff. So that makes sense. Let's just click on post, and that is going to help us send data to site B. Okay, so the content type here will of course be JSON. And why JSON? Because of course, look at that in the URL there, WP JSON. Good. Now you have headers that you can use to authenticate your request to site B. Part of that has already been fulfilled with the connection you have at the very top right here. It's going to be sent as part of the authentication headers to site B saying, hey, I'm not a hacker. I have the correct details. Let me in. This is my party as much as it is yours. Okay. So that is part of the authentication headers. There are more you can add, but we're not delving deep into this right now, not today. But we will delve into it sometime in the future. For the query parameters, you can also basically drill this down using the request URL here to drill this down to particular requests on the destination site. But like the headers, we're not going to deal with that today. What's really important for us here is the body. This is what is going to hold the data that is sent to site B, and that is excellent. But what is going to be part of the body? We should know, because we have the REST API docs right before us. Now inside of here, we can just come down here to where we have reference. And of course, you can go through all of these yourself, but let me just show you what's important for us in this particular use case. Now inside of reference, if you scroll down here to where you have posts, you can see here that this is what we're dealing with. WP v2 posts. Let's come back to BitFlows Pro, and you see that's exactly what we're dealing with here, right? So we want to see what can constitute the body, what will constitute the kind of data that is needed on the destination site to, of course, be able to create posts on that destination site. So we can click into that particular resource, and let's see what constitutes the data. Let's scroll down and see what we need to actually create a post. We see here, this one is to list posts. We have a certain argument inside of here. Let's scroll down and we have create posts. Good. And we have the list of all of the arguments needed. So we can pass things such as date. We can pass date GMT. We can pass the slug. We can pass the status, the password, stuff like that. We can pass all this data. But we know for sure that when we're creating a WordPress post, if we come inside of post here and just click on add new post, we see we have two important things for us. We have the title, and we have what's going to constitute the content of that particular post. So, because this is what's important to us, we're going to use those two as part of the body request for now. Of course, you can do whatever you want with it. This is your choice. We see that for the title of the post, we need this. So we're just going to type in title, come back to BitFlows Pro, and add that as the first body request. Going to add another one. Of course, this time we need the content. So we have content. Of course, this is the content for the post. So we're going to grab that too. Once we grab that, we paste that inside of here. So we have both the title and the content ready to be sent to site B. But these are only the keys we have added here. How about the values? Of course, you can type in a title of your choice inside of here. That's entirely your choice. But we need to map this data dynamically so that once a form submission is sent, each field can be mapped to each body request. So for the body, we know that the title is needed. So inside of the value here, we're going to put the title placeholder here that is gotten from the webhook received. Okay. And then inside of content here, we're also going to put the content here, and that should map it just right. Now, once we have that done, we can close this and we have our stuff ready to go. We can test this out right now. Let's see if it actually does work. If we come inside of the front page here and we can refresh if we want, we can come to title here and just type in anything of our choice. And inside of content here, we're going to say, hey, how are you doing today? And then once we're done with that, we click on send, and that data is sent to the webhook. We see your submission was successful. That is excellent. Now I want to come to site B and see if we have that post created. We just want to take a look at it by refreshing, and there we have it. Anything of our choice on site B, ready to go. Excellent. Now, we see there's a problem with this right now. Here we have a draft post, but we actually need the post to be published. If we edit it, just to take note that our content was actually added, you have, hey, how are you doing today, inside of the content right there. That's really nice. I believe that's nice. If you don't think that's nice, I don't know what to tell you. But now what you can see here is with the power of BitFlows, you can connect two sites together and the posts are published just like that. Speaking of published, let's make it actually published. Once something is sent to the site, we don't want to have to log in here and then actually, change the status here to published and save. We want it to actually be published. So how do we do that? Let's come back to our REST API documentation and take a look at it. We can scroll down and see whether we have, something that can help us determine the status, the publish status. Of course, that's what it's called here, right? The status of the particular post. Let's see if we have something that can do that for us. If you see here, you have something called status. That's it right there. You see a named status for the post. You have possibilities. You have publish, you have future, draft, pending, private. Excellent. Oh my God, this is marvelous. Because of this, we can simply copy that as a key. We can come back inside of BitFlows here. And again, we're going to edit that API request and add one more thing to the body here, which is of course the status. Inside of here, we can map this to the form data if we want to. If we sent that from the form, we can map that right here. Of course, this can give you ideas already about what you can possibly do here. For example, you can come inside of your form and you can add a new form field, such as a select field, and then let people actually select the publish status of whatever they're sending from this form. So if we set the publish status inside of here using a select field and the person selects that, then you can very easily catch that data from the webhook inside of here and then use that data to determine the publish status of that particular post on site B. But this time around, we're just going to type in a plain value here of publish. And once we're done with that, you see it automatically saves. This is very, very nice. We can click on close. Now, if we come back inside of the form at the front end here, now we can test this by coming inside of title and giving it anything that is a title and writing anything that is a content for it too. And once we're done with that, we can click on send, see if things send, and you see the submission was successful. We can come back inside of post here and just click on refresh, and we have anything that is a title ready to go. You can also see that it is not currently a draft. It is actually published. If we click on quick edit, you see the status here is publish. Now, of course, you can take a look at the REST API docs, try and take a look at what can be done and how you can manipulate data, delete, add, whatever you want to do, even modify data on a different site, all doing so dynamically. Now, you can do that with the power of BitFlows Pro because this is currently a possibility. However, I only scratched the surface here. In fact, there are things you can do to ensure that the data sent from the webhook to the API is correctly filtered. In fact, you can do something like this. Let's first of all unlink this connection. And after unlinking it, we can, of course, that's yes. We can come to tools here and select what we have here as condition. You have a number of tools you can make use of. It's entirely your choice how you want to make use of them. For example, router here can send data to different chains of apps. Condition here can determine whether or not things go through based on a certain number of conditions. For example, for the webhook, you can specify that you want a certain kind of data to be sent with the form. And only if that data exists, you can type in that data right here and say if that data, for example, the form ID is equal to a particular thing, then you need this to go through. You can, of course, give that condition a name such as verify form ID. I can just type in right here, verify form ID. So let's say you want to verify the form ID and only if the form ID is equal to this, do you want that data to go through? You can do that very easily. Now you can just simply connect only that form condition right there to the API request, and that way the form doesn't go through unless that form ID is verified. You can do that including adding multiple conditions here, and for each condition you want to route it to a different chain of events. This is remarkable. to say the least. It's awesome. You can also make this more granular by delaying your action for a period of time. For example, if we unlink this two right here and then drag in the delay tool right here, and then we link that condition right there to the delay tool and then the delay tool to the API request, we can then specify inside of that delay a number of minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, whatever. Let's say after 30 days, we need something to happen. So we're just going to specify that after 30 days, we want that post to be published. I don't know, I can't think of a use case where that is actually going to work. But I mean, this is a tool. It's like a hammer. Make use of it to build your house. You just do it according to your own specifications. Now, there are other tools here that you can take a look at, including some of them that are coming very, very soon. And I really cannot wait for these features to be released. Let me know in the comment section below if you think you've learned something new today, or if you think this is something you want me to explore some more in the future, and I'll be happy to. As always, my people, my name is Toby Salami. Subscribe for more and stay dynamic.